I started with a 64 Cabriolet and leaned the nose back, then flattened out the hood, and then rolled the doors and rockers all the way to the floor, so more like a 550 Spider.
Just a quick, push of the sheet metal and just kind of lean those headlights. I mean, sounds like all in a day's work.
Yeah, it was about 9 months, start to finish.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Forsberg, and on this episode of Garage Tours, we headed out to Los Angeles, California to visit with Emory Motorsports and check out their Porsche 356 collection. This garage is home to a third-generation gearhead which turned their outlaw nickname into their own racing class. Hey everyone, I'm Chris Forsberg, and we're out here in Los Angeles, California at Emory Motorsports, where they are rebuilding vintage Porsches with a modern look and feel. Let's hop inside and see what they're up to. I'm here with the man himself, Rod Emory, who is building some of the most amazing Porsches I have ever seen. And this is not your typical just kind of ground up, take them down, strip them down, and repaint them. He is doing incredible sheet metal work and putting a very personal touch on a lot of these chassis.
You know, I've been building and restoring vintage Porsches for a little over 25 years. Look forward to showing you around the shop and giving you a taste of what we do here. This car is very similar to the very first car I built. When I was 14, I restored a 53 coupe. This is a 55 coupe. And you know, basically taking it and restoring the car and then putting fog lights on it and hood straps. And these cars originally only had 60 to 90 horsepower. With my racing experience and all the race cars that I had built over the years, I started taking all that and adding it to the street cars. Now this car's 200 horsepower. It's got hidden disc brakes. It's low. It's low, but it still has suspension that works. And this car, just goes out and handles, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's amazing looking as well.
Growing up, my dad had a Porsche parts business, and in the back of the shop, we had one bay where he and I were taking 356s, stock little 356s, and kind of hot rodding them out. And so people were coming in and saying, oh, how could you do that? How could you chop these cars up? They started calling myself and my dad outlaws. So we made this little badge that we put on the back of the cars that said 356 Outlaws, and it was just kind of a way for us to just share with people that, hey, we're not afraid to have a little fun with the cars. And
so you guys kind of coined the term outlaw.
It kind of stuck. Now there's outlaws all over the place.
So now I'm sure you're going to try and tell me that this is a 356 as well, even though it looks completely different.
Yeah, Porsche designed the Volkswagen, and then when he wanted to go out and build his own car, they designed the 356. And the 356, it's a car that I love, but I wanted to see if I could just continue to evolve the design. And this car is what I call an Emory Special. I started with a 64 Cabriolet and leaned the nose back and then flattened out the hood and then rolled the doors and rockers all the way to the floor, so more like a 550 Spider.
Just a quick, push of the sheet metal and just kind of lean those headlights. I mean, sounds like all in a day's work.
Yeah, it was about 9 months, start to finish. But and then raise the wheel arches and lean the windshield back and lengthen the tail. And I changed everything underneath the car. Instead of having the old swing axle like Volkswagen type suspension, I changed it to aluminum trailing arms and big Turbo S brakes and 5-speed transmission.
Great, so you're kind of just taking the evolution of the 356 into your own hands and modernizing it to your liking.
Exactly. Porsche early on had looked at the feasibility of taking a 6-cylinder 911 engine and turning it into a 4-cylinder, but it just didn't work out for him. But in the 80s, a friend of mine, Dean Palopoulos, essentially took a 3.3-liter turbo 911 engine and cut the case, welded it back together, but missing the center 2 cylinders.
So Porsche didn't want to figure it out, but you guys took it on your own.
Exactly, and so this is actually the prototype engine. This was the very first one that was done late 80s, early 90s. And so, I decided to build a really cool car around that engine and that platform.
That you did.
So we've got a 2.2-liter overhead cam, 4-cylinder 911 engine that's dry sump and twin plug. And, a couple hundred horsepower in a 356 is very cool.
Yeah, it seems like a perfect fit for this style car. I might be able to do a little bit of metal work, but reshaping metal and building body panels is a little bit outside of my English wheelhouse, would you say?
Yeah, right. That's good.
But yeah, why don't you walk us through how some of this stuff works?
Metal shaping, there's a lot of different techniques and tools that you can use. You're either shrinking it or stretching it, and then when you're done shrinking and stretching, you need to smooth it out or plenish it to make it, have that right look. Everything from using stakes, like old blacksmithing type tools, to a wood stump to do shrinking and forming, plenishing hammers, shrinker and stretchers. There's just a lot of really cool pieces of equipment that you can use to manipulate metal. When we're building these cars, not only are we building original panels, but sometimes we have to create shapes. A method that my grandfather taught me years ago when I was a kid was to use 3/16 metal wire and just wire frame it, tack it all together, and then that gives you your buck or your template to be able to form off of. Like if you look at this headrest, it'd be hard to just make that without having a template, a guide to follow. So after I make the wire frame, then I can use the English wheel, the power hammers and shrinkers and stretchers, and form the aluminum right over this. Sometimes we have to build a wood buck if we need to make things a lot more precise. Like on the 356 SL when I had to remake the roof on that car because it had been cut off in 1952.
Just a quick remake of a whole roof?
Yeah, exactly. We first did a big foam model of that, and I shaped the foam and got it just the way that I wanted, and then 3D scanned that foam, and then we were able to design our wood buck from that. We were able to build our stations and then machine that. So that wood buck then gives me the template to be able to build the aluminum parts.
It's obviously an art form, and you guys do an amazing job at it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, sometimes we really have to get after it and put our knee into it. That's fun.
This one looks like it's getting a little extra attention. I see a front differential on the ground. Do you want to tell me what's going on with this one?
Yeah, this was actually one of our old vintage race cars, but I had a guy that came to me and asked me if I had ever done an all-wheel drive 356. And I haven't, and I don't think anybody ever has, but I love to push the boundaries and go for it. So the idea that I came up with was to use the suspension pickup points, the tunnel, and main part of the chassis from a 964, and then take the 356 body and really essentially wrap it over the chassis. So the way I accomplished it was we 3D scanned the 964 tub and then 3D scanned the body and figured out where the intersection points were, where they were going to meet. I did have to shorten the wheelbase about 6 inches, 6.6 inches, but and I did that so that we could fit it in the 356 and keep it looking the same. Had to widen the track just a little bit, so you can see these seams here. I widened the rear of the car about 1 inch on each side, which is why we're making some new corners right here to finish blending that. But 996 twin turbo front differential, and then a G64 all-wheel drive transmission, and then we'll put one of our new versions of our 4-cylinder 911 engine in it. So in the end, you've got a car that's 2,000, 2,100 pounds, all-wheel drive, over 200 horsepower. This thing's gonna be fun.
So you're actually taking the time to graft this 964 tub to the 356, and it just makes for an incredible result. That's not just another two-front chassis. That's obviously not what you guys do here.
No, it's all unibody stuff, and so it has its own challenges, but we're building this for a guy that owns a titanium bicycle company. And so one of the other tasks was to design a titanium roof rack for it so that he could hold his bikes. And really, this thing's going to be his mountain bike transporter to take him up in the mountains when he goes and does his mountain bike races. So it's going to be great.
You have a lot of vintage metalworking tools, but sometimes you got to create something on your own to make your job easier. So you want to tell us what you got going on here?
Yeah, the traditional rotisserie like you're used to seeing on an American car restoration picks up from the front and back of the car, but these cars are unibody, and that means that the nose and tail don't just unbolt. It's not like a grill that you can take off, and so much of the work that we do on these cars is at the nose and tail, and so I can't have that cumbersome rotisserie type thing. So these octagons, they're cheap, they're easy to build, and basically I can rotate the car in 8 different positions. One person can do it. And $300-400 worth of steel and a little, couple hours of welding, and you've got a cage that you can rotate the car in. And the hoops themselves drop right off, and we can position them on whichever car we need to, so we don't have to have a bunch of extra space that we take up from our rotisserie.
Ah, it's genius. We have a rotisserie at our shop, and you never know where to put that thing. It's like moving around 2 refrigerators. But yeah, this is, adds on, rolls over, and it's very, very smart, especially for these types of projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Now this seems to be the perfect car to wrap up our tour. It's obviously all complete, looks amazing from the outside, but it has all of your finishing work underneath. So you want to give us some details about this car?
Yeah, this is a 64 Cabriolet, and it's pretty standard, as you said, on the outside. There's some hood straps and fog lights, gas filler through the hood, and alloy wheels that kind of, you know, give you a hint that there's something else going on. But underneath, it's disc brakes, 5-speed transmission, 200 horsepower, 4-cylinder 911 engine. And so this is like kind of that perfect car where somebody can have the old school, you know, retro look, but have the performance and driving characteristics of the newer Porsche. And yeah, this car is just heading back to Atlanta. The owner's just going to take it back there and enjoy the heck out of it in some of those great roads.
Oh, I'm sure he will. I mean, this is everybody's dream, you know, to have that classic look, but with the performance of modern day cars. And you guys are really doing it here at Emory Motorsports. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope to come back and see some more projects down the road.
Thanks, man.
My favorite part about Rod Emory's garage is the incredible amount of effort that they're putting into these old chassis. Taking a flat piece of sheet metal and bending it into a unique shape is an incredible art form. We'll see you next time on Garage Tours.